Iran not to proceed down the road of building a nuclear bomb, and Behrouz Kamalvandi, spokesman for the Iranian Nuclear Agency, saying we could go to 20% if we wanted to. Let's bring in our panel. Chris Stirewalt is the politics editor here at Fox News. Mara Liasson, the national political correspondent of National Public Radio, and Washington Post columnist Marc Thiessen. So right now, they say that they've broken through the barrier that's allowed into the JCPOA, which is 3.67%. They're now enriching at 4.5%. Going to 20, I take it, would probably be a horrible idea for Iran to do.
Yeah, that would be a really big leap. But look, they're in a bind. They were in the JCPOA. The United States took themselves out, put on crippling sanctions, and Iran was hoping to pressure Europe to somehow stay in the deal with them. But Europe is under pressure from the United States because they have secondary sanctions. So they're playing a game of chicken to see if they start enriching uranium, maybe somebody will come and negotiate with them.
So which way is this going to go? Europe's under pressure, as Mara said, from Iran to rein in the United States. The United States is saying to Europe, no, we need help with sanctions. Who wins this game?
Well, I think the United States does. I think the United States is more powerful economically and otherwise, and we can impose the sanctions will hit the European, even if the European governments wanted to do trade with Iran, the European businesses aren't going to go run afoul of American sanctions. But look, let's keep in mind why this is happening. The Iranian regime, when Donald Trump came into office, was on the march across the Middle East, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, because they had been fueled by all this cash that they got from the front-loaded sanctions relief of the Iran nuclear deal. So what Donald Trump has done is he has pulled out of the deal and he's put these crippling sanctions on, 88% reduction in their oil exports, 40% reduction in their overall budget. That means they don't have money to give to Hamas, they don't have money to give to Hezbollah, they don't have money for the Iranian military budget's been cut, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's budget is cut. So the long-term game here is to have the sanctions cripple Iran so that they are pushed back within their borders, and the expansionism. This is like the Reagan rollback strategy in the Cold War. It's not that we're going to have peaceful coexistence or détente with them. We're going to roll back Iranian expansion and force them back within their borders through economic pressure, and it's working.
You know, people who are really in the danger zone if Iran develops a nuclear weapon is Israel. Yeah. Here's what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say about what the response should be.
It's important to respond to these actions not by reducing the pressure, but by increasing the pressure. We should stand up to Iran's aggression now, and Europe should back the sanctions instituted by President Trump. We certainly do.
Chris, do you agree with Mark that the president wins this, or will Europe go soft?
So the political calculation here for the president, and he obviously responded to this when the Iranians shot down the U.S. drone, there is no political will or appetite in the United States for any kind of a major confrontation with Iran. It's just not there. Not with Republicans, not with Democrats, not with anybody. So while the administration can talk tough and certainly apply these sanctions effectively, escalation from here on in is a really politically dubious proposition. And this president, as he's demonstrated with North Korea, does not want to be in a position where he is seen as escalating tensions on the world stage like this. It's a tough play.
So where does this go? I mean, he thought that if he put crippling sanctions on Iran, Iran would come back to the negotiating table and beg for a deal on Trump's terms. That hasn't happened.
He's fine with it, either them coming back to or being under the sanctions. Because even if they don't come back to the negotiating table, which is their only out from the sanctions, then they don't have the money to fund all their activities around the world, all their support for Hamas and Hezbollah. I mean, literally, the leader of Hezbollah gave a public speech begging, holding the can and begging for money. They don't have money to support terrorism. So even if they don't come back to the negotiating table, this is better than what we had before.
Even if they continue their nuclear program in a way that they didn't before.
First of all, they're not going to, because they're not going to provoke Israel to try to launch an attack, because it's as John pointed out, it's an existential threat to Israel. But two, we have capabilities. I mean, it's been underreported, but the cyber attack that the president launched against Iran was pretty substantial, and we have the capability of doing a very major blow to them without kinetic activity.
We're getting some idea of how other signatories to the JCPOA are feeling about this. France specifically, because Emmanuel Macron spoke with President Rouhani on Saturday. He talked with President Trump today, and the French are saying, quote, the French president reiterated to Rouhani his deep concern over the danger of further weakening the 2015 nuclear agreement and the consequences that would necessarily ensue. The consequences could be this dispute resolution mechanism, which would snap back sanctions. So it may be that Iran is not going to find the friend in Europe that it's looking for, but there are a lot of other people who are still involved.
The belief, as has been revealed as a mistaken belief, under the formation of this plan under the Obama administration, was that the moderate faction in Iran would be strengthened, the desire for nuclear weapons in Iran would decrease, and that 10 years from now, when time had passed, it would be all a big laugh. But in reality, that moderate faction was neither as moderate as they thought, nor as close to being able to hold on to real power inside the government. Instead, hardliners have advanced, and that's what we're staring down in Iran now, is an emboldened hardline group in Tehran.
Right. The president has said that he is open to talks without condition with the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Iran has said that it could see dialogue, but not the way that the United States is behaving. Let's listen to a spokesman for Khamenei's office and Vice President Pence, who sent a warning to Iran again today to say, you better behave or else. Listen here.
We hope for the best, but the United States of America and our military are prepared to protect our interests and protect our personnel and our citizens in the region. America will never allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon.
The other party has step by step, Americans directly and Europeans indirectly, violated the deal. We will show reaction exponentially as much as they violate it.
So we've got saber rattling on both sides, and it can be contained or it can get out of control.
So Chris is right that there's not a political constituency for a war with Iran here. You know who wants war even less than Americans do? The Iranians, because they know they can't win. And so if you look very carefully, the red line that President Trump has drawn and Secretary Pompeo have drawn is if a single American is killed, Iran is going to pay for it. We're going to hold Iran responsible. Notice they didn't attack a U.S. oil tankers. They shot down an unmanned drone. So they're walking up to the red line, but they're not crossing it, and it would be very, very disadvantageous to them if they did.
It would be disadvantageous to the world if they crossed the red line. Next up, the U.S. women's soccer team sparks new debate over equal pay and the census citizenship question. We'll take that all up when we get back.